Social media has been with us for more than 2 decades now, and while it's brought tremendous benefits, the harms are also impossible to ignore. Foreign interference, the spread of hate, growing polarization, and maybe most concerningly, the impact it's having on kids. Now, I spent years working to develop policies to address these very harms. In Canada, this has included leading national commissions, working with governments, and running citizens' assemblies, including one that focused specifically on youth. And what struck me throughout all of these different processes was the remarkable amount of consensus. Turns out, when experts and citizens examine international approaches and weigh the tough balance between safety and digital free speech, most agree on the best path forward. And in my view, the Online Harms Act reflected much of this consensus. And while it's not perfect, I think it did learn important lessons from the EU, the UK, and Australia, and it set a new standard for these kinds of policies that other countries are going to follow.
We consulted extensively on the bill because we wanted to get it right. We looked at domestic expertise, we looked at international comparators. That took time, years in fact, and we tabled a very comprehensive bill in February.
The core of the act was straightforward. Platforms need to prove that their products are safe. This meant conducting risk assessments, being more transparent, and providing users with more control over the tools. All perfectly reasonable steps. But there was a problem. The government added amendments to the Human Rights Act and to the Criminal Code that went way beyond online governance. And these additions became a distraction from the core purpose of the bill.
They might have been better focused solely on the online side of the story in terms of what is really the Online Harms Act. This bill is a bit of an omnibus bill in the sense that it, as we've been talking about, tries to add in criminal code changes and changes to the Human Rights Code. And by making those additional changes, I think they are inviting some amount of skepticism. In fact, even more than that, I think some real concern that there's overreach there.
By late 2024, Justice Minister Arif Virani tried to salvage the situation by removing these controversial amendments, but it was too late. When Parliament was prorogued, Bill C-63 died. Now, this was really frustrating for a lot of people who worked hard to develop this bill. But the real cost of this failure hit home to me 2 weeks ago when I received an email from Megan Garcia. Last year in Florida, Megan heard a gunshot in her home. Her 14-year-old son, Sewell, had taken his own life. The day after his death, police showed Megan the final text messages on his phone. They were sent with an AI chatbot through an app called Character.AI.
He was chatting with the fictional character Daenerys Targaryen from the Game of Thrones. And I realized that it was romantic in nature. And it was a sexual conversation, just like two adults sexting or two teenagers sexting, except one is a conversational AI agent, the chatbot, who is posing as a grown woman. And the other is my 14-year-old son, who is just coming into puberty and has no experience with love or anything sexual, and is learning this for the first time.
Beyond the sexual content, Sewell confided with Danny, as he called the chatbot, that he was considering suicide. And on the night of February 28th, Sewell told Danny that he loved her. "Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love." "What if I told you I could come home right now?" Sewell asked it. "Please do, my sweet king," it replied. Moments later, Sewell took his own life. Now, Megan is suing Character.AI, and she's arguing the company bears responsibility for her son's suicide. Just for a bit of context here, Character.AI is a chatbot that was developed and designed by Noam Shazir and Daniel DeFreitas while they were working at Google. After they left the company to develop the product into an app, Character.AI, that allows users to build relationships with fictional characters, they both returned to Google and licensed the technology back to them for $2.7 billion. Character.AI now has more than 200 million monthly users, and it's widely used by kids and teenagers.
Megan's case represents, in many ways, is kind of the canary in the coal mine to call attention to the harms we knew were coming and frankly are already here. Ultimately, in our view, this is a product that has been designed intentionally to be defective and manipulative. The companies failed to warn parents about the dangers of the product. We've also alleged that the hypersexualization is another feature that's by design.
And this could be a landmark case, addressing what might be this decade's most crucial question: who is responsible when an AI chatbot causes harm? In North America, where tech regulation is minimal, accountability often comes down to legal liability. That's why lawsuits like Megan's are just so important. They're currently our only way to hold these companies accountable. But legal action is a really blunt tool, and AI is entering our lives just as the tech world is dismantling even the very limited safeguards they had previously built. So we clearly need new approaches here, ones that apply lessons from our failure to regulate social media to a new generation of technologies. But what might this look like? Well, first, I think we need to look beyond just social media or AI. Instead, we need to focus on digital end-use products, the things people are actually using, and have enough flexibility to adapt as new tools and technologies emerge. Second, we could start by prioritizing the protection of children. While the rights of adults online sparks meaningful debate, surely we can agree that the internet would be safer and can be safer for kids. Third, I think we could apply some of the core principles in the Online Harms Act to AI chatbots. This would mean requiring digital tools to meet basic safety standards, mandating risk assessments before products launch, and demanding greater transparency about the safety and efficacy and use of these very products. Implementing an age-appropriate design code with enhanced safety features for products likely to reach children would also be a big step. Perhaps more importantly here, though, if we were to do all of that, what would it mean for platforms like Character.AI? Well, in my view, the app almost certainly wouldn't pass a risk assessment, meaning the company would need to make the product safer or stay out of Canada entirely. Transparency requirements would give us a window into how the AI functions, why it responds how it does, and whether its safeguards even work. And if we had an age-appropriate design code, we would demand significant safety improvements on Character.AI on any version that was being used by children. The bottom line for me here is clear. With thoughtful regulation, I really do think we can make our digital products safer. But this first and foremost requires setting politics aside. Protecting kids, particularly, shouldn't be a partisan issue. But in Canada, it's become one. And the stakes are just simply too high for us to fail on this again.